Good morning. My name is Therein Protze. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. I'd like to welcome all ladies and gentlemen this morning, and thank you for joining us to mark this momentous occasion as we officially welcome United Launch Alliance Delta II rocket to the Rocket Garden. I'd like to briefly introduce our speakers. Ron Fortson, the Director and General Manager of Launch Operations at United Launch Alliance. Robert Cabana, NASA Kennedy Space Center Center Director. Tim Dunn, Launch Director, NASA Launch Services Program. Brigadier General Stephen Purdy, Jr., 45th Space Wing Commander and Eastern Range Director, Patrick Space Force Base, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. We're excited to welcome the Delta II, the 9th rocket to our rocket garden. It will be keeping company with other historic and remarkable rockets, including the original Delta Thor, Mercury Redstone, Mercury Atlas, Gemini Titan, Juno 1, Juno 2, Atlas Agena, and the Saturn S1B. Thank you, United Launch Alliance, for making this amazing addition. They've been absolutely astounding to work with and a true partnership. This edition is timely as more people are visiting to learn all about space. Delta II is the entry point to our newest attraction, opening in the first quarter of 2022, right behind me. Look for this exciting announcement in June. It's going to be something exciting. So it was strategically placed here to be right in front of our newest attraction. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Ron Fortson. Ron.
Everyone hear me okay? Take this off, it'll be better. Okay. What a beautiful day, and what a beautiful rocket. This is a great day. So on behalf of the team at United Launch Alliance, we're excited to be here today. This is a monumental occasion as the legacy of Delta II will be preserved here for years to come, taking its place among the iconic giants here at the Rocket Garden. ULA would like to thank NASA and the Kennedy Space Center Complex for partnership that we have to bring this rocket here, and it just looks fantastic. This is really a great achievement here. So this is the final Delta II, and since it won't be launching, you know, the best thing to pay is the good thing, a better place for it to be than right here, being preserved in this fitting location here with all these other iconic rockets that we have here in this complex. Now, as you know, a lot of these rockets here were ULA heritage, you know, part of Thor and Agena and Mercury Atlas. All these are all part of the history here, and we're glad to have the Delta II also here as part of this great collection of rockets history here. So when I go back to my days, my younger days, when I was a captain in the Air Force, I worked in the Space Test Program, and in that role we were responsible for taking small research projects, payloads, and putting them on the satellites. And I remember there were two that I got an opportunity to be involved with. One was Stardust with NASA, and also with Argos P-91. And that one took a while to get off the ground, but a great mission. But you know, the thing about it at the time was those missions launched, they were successful, and I knew they launched on a Delta II. But I didn't realize the significance of the rocket at that point. To me, it was kind of just another rocket. Then I got an opportunity to come back here to the Cape and be the ops officer and the commander for the 1st Space Launch Squadron, which was responsible for launching Delta II, and that's when I got to meet a lot of you here in the audience, and I think that's when I got a true appreciation of what Delta II was really all about. You know, my first mission was D313, GPS 2R14 in September of 2005, and I recall, you know, that launch with those 9 solids. We only got 3 here today, but those 9 solids, and when that thing lit and shot off like a bottle rocket off into space, I just said, this is truly amazing. This is an awesome rocket. Had the opportunity to be involved in 13 more launches for, you know, launching GPSs and other NASA space exploration missions. And it was at that point I realized and got a true appreciation of how important Delta II was to our nation and all the contributions it made. I also got a good opportunity to get an understanding of the people involved in it. And there's no doubt all the folks working Delta II were true professionals and fully dedicated to do anything to make sure those missions were successful. And whenever you launched the Delta II, everyone wanted to be a part of that mission because it was just that important. So that's what I remember very well about the Delta II program when I got an opportunity to get fully engaged in it. So now that I really know what Delta II is all about, you know, it served as basically an industry workhorse for over 30 years, including 155 missions, with the first one being a GPS mission on Valentine's Day in 1989, and then all the way through the last mission, which occurred in July of 2018 with ISAT-2. And many of us were there for that monumental and very successful launch. So as you know, Delta II has been delivered a lot of significant missions for NASA, the Air Force, and our commercial customers. In particular for NASA, there's the Mars rover, Spirit and Opportunity, the Phoenix Mars lander, and as I mentioned before, ISAT-2. That's just one of the many significant accomplishments and missions that were launched on Delta II. For the Air Force, GPS. Can you think of a world today without GPS? I can't. Well, Delta II is the reason we have it. And all the Block 2 GPS satellites were launched on Delta II. In total, 48 satellites, GPS satellites of that constellation were launched on Delta II. So you have GPS, you have Delta II to thank for the capabilities we have in that arena. And then on the commercial side, essentially, you know, basically we had on the commercial side, we had the Iridium satellites, the constellation there. There was also Global Star and Digital Globe. All those basically connected the world through communication. So that was another opportunity for Delta II to contribute to our success. So while Delta II has a very strong history and impact on all of us, it really comes down to the people, the spirit of all the people that's going to live on forever with Delta II, because they're the ones that help design, build, and launch this vehicle and make us successful as we are today. So from national security to space exploration, the Delta II has changed what we know about the world we live in today, and it's affected all of our lives. We're proud to be here to open up this exhibit and look forward to the future generations who are going to be learning all this history, this rich history that's been provided by this awesome rocket. So with that, I want to thank all of you for coming here, and now I'll turn it over to the NASA Kennedy Space Center Director, Bob Cabana, for comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Wow, looks great. So, first off, I want to thank Tori Bruno and the amazing ULA team for donating this Delta II rocket to the Rocket Garden. What a great addition. The Delta II has been a workhorse for NASA throughout its career. And, you know, we've sent probes all over our solar system with the Delta II, to the planets, to the sun, and missions right here to planet Earth, making the Earth a better place, all because of that rocket. I couldn't be more pleased than to have it here. You know, when Atlantis moved into the Atlantis facility, it was kind of heartbreaking to me to see that, right? And that's a real rocket behind us. It could have flown in space, but instead, just like Atlantis, it's on its second career right now. And a lot of us end up on second careers, right? And it's on a mission of inspiration for the future generations, all right? And right in front of this awesome facility that we're going to have opening up, telling about the future of space next year. So, again, my thanks to the entire ULA team, to the Kennedy Visitor Center for helping make all of this happen. It really looks great. Now, as much as I'd like to talk about the Delta II rocket, I want to introduce somebody that really knows the Delta II rocket. Throughout his career in the Air Force and here at NASA, Tim Dunn, NASA's Launch Services Program Launch Director, absolutely loves the Delta II, and he could tell you every mission in detail that it has flown. So, Tim, come on up here and share a little bit about the Delta II with us, would you? Thank you.
Testing, testing. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Cabana. I'd also like to thank my boss, Launch Services Program Manager Amanda Mickiewicz, for the opportunity to say just a few words. So the words we all use to describe the Delta II rocket are words we use to describe the most honorable people among us: reliable, steady, consistent, humbly carrying on. I think that is why we are all gathered together now to reflect and celebrate the role of Delta II in space launch history. For just shy of 30 years, Delta II carried the torch of space launch from its predecessor, Delta I. A few years ago, the Space Review summed up Delta II's legacy perfectly. This relatively diminutive rocket by today's and even 1990s standards clearly had an outsized presence in the pantheon of space launch systems. Some have wondered, what is it about this blue rocket that makes it so special? While the hardware is beautifully designed, while the missions have been amazing and varied, GPS that has changed our lives, weather satellites, mobile satellite telephones, space telescopes, trips to the moon, Mars, and Mercury, comets, asteroids, and countless spacecraft studying our beloved Mother Earth. We all know it's the people, the unfailing Delta II team, that earned this rocket's virtues and its appropriate nickname, the workhorse. NASA has a terrific history on the Delta II rocket. Of the 155 total Delta II missions, NASA had 54 of them, and every single one of them successful. Launching NASA spacecraft from both Cape Canaveral's Complex 17 and Vandenberg's Slick 2, Delta II lofted such blockbuster missions as Mars, Pathfinder's Sojourner rover, Stardust, the Surtiv Spitzer telescope, Messenger, Deep Impact, Grail, cutting-edge weather satellites, NPP and JPSS-1, and of course, the Mars, Spirit, and Opportunity rovers. And that's just to name a few of the NASA missions. When I think of the Delta II team, mentors come to mind like George Lucian. George and other Delta II retirees who came before us are honored here today. I also think of those of us who cut our launch teeth on Delta II, and even those teammates who began their careers as the workhorse was winding down. All these groups of engineers, analysts, and technicians benefited from this rocket's unprecedented record of success and consistent performance. I believe the success of this rocket has left a huge ripple effect on the launch systems we have today. So on behalf of NASA, on behalf of the Launch Services Program, I would especially like to thank the team that is responsible for bringing Delta II to the Rocket Garden, the partnership of United Launch Alliance and Delaware North. Their investment and teamwork have preserved this piece of history, this piece of our space launch history that can now be studied and admired up close for generations to come. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Brigadier General Stephen Purdy, Jr., 45th Space Wing Commander and Eastern Range Director at Patrick Space Force Base and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Thank you very much. I like this rocket a lot. I've actually never worked this particular rocket before. I've worked its later Delta IV, Atlas V, and then some of the Falcons. This rocket, though, I've always kind of been a little biased toward. The other rockets, we were talking about it before the ceremony, they're kind of majestic. They're slow, and they take their time to get off the pad. This one's in a hurry to get its job done. This one moves. Ron mentioned a bottle rocket, and that's always my thought. As soon as this thing lights, boom, gone. Almost like it's impatient and it wants to get going. And I really like that kind of mindset. It's just a personal mindset, and I love kind of thinking of this rocket in that terms. I have the interesting job here to kind of explain a little bit about some of the mission, particularly GPS. And I say interesting because I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with GPS, know what GPS is. It's in your phones, it's in your cars, it's in our airplanes, it's in almost every bit of technology, increasing more and more. But sometimes I think we forget, because it's almost ubiquitous everywhere. I think sometimes we forget how truly fundamental and important it is. And it's this rocket that brought that capability. It's so important, think about this, it's so important that many other countries have created their entire own GPS constellations because they wanted to be able to have that capability themselves. It's that important. What other systems can you think of that are like that, of that nature? And so, I mean, GPS, I mentioned ATMs, traffic lights, planes, cars. The really interesting thing about what this rocket brought was the economic benefits in sort of secondary markets. GPS is designed to be originally in a military system for military applications, and really produced a fundamental change of war in terms of being able to do precision accuracy with weapons, which is important because it means that we could get less resources and also cause less damage, which is the whole point in order to achieve whatever mission we were trying to achieve. But the broader economic impacts are what are really fascinating, where farming and construction and mining and geolocation activities in the different areas, banking and financial institutions. Many people forget that GPS is all about timing as well, in addition to geolocating. Banking and financial all depends on timing. You almost can't go to any ATM or do any kind of banking transition without a timing hack. And that's a key element of the GPS, and the Delta II brought that to us. Power grids. There are other second and third order aspects of our daily lives that are really brought together and brought by this rocket. And I think that's what's so interesting. And then finally, let me just hit on saving lives. GPS has been fundamental in that activity for so many years. Geolocator beacons, search and rescue, transportation in terms of aircraft or watercraft, for example, cars, being able to reach out with emergency services, ambulances, police, fire, all are able to tap into GPS resources and be able to get to people faster. And this workhorse brought that to us. It's really fascinating and it's awesome. I think people are roughly aware we have 31 operational satellites in the current constellation. I like a couple of factoids here just to kind of bring it up. The GPS constellation, 4+ billion daily users worldwide. Over 4 billion users worldwide. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of percentage of the world using the GPS brought to you by Delta. GPS, 1.4 trillion in the private sector over the last 25 years. And the GPS Council thinks that the economic benefit is in the order of $1 billion a day. So, true workhorse rocket bringing a fundamental change in life and interactivity across all the different domains. Really fascinating. And let me just summarize here with a little touch to history, which I really love in this rocket garden. We were also commenting, I've always kind of viewed the Delta II as kind of a smaller rocket based on some of the rockets I've worked in. But you come here into some of the history and you realize it's really a giant among some of its predecessors. But let me point you to the top right, all the way on the top right there, and you can kind of see the profile there of the shark's teeth. And there's a little bit of a history there that's uniquely military aspect to it. Way back in the early dawn of World War, really almost before World War II even began for America, you had the American Volunteer Group. They were volunteers that went to Asia to fight against Japan, and truly volunteer. They weren't in the military. But they formed a collective there known as the Flying Tigers. And the Flying Tigers are a pretty legendary group back in the day. An amazing number of aircraft kills with very little loss of life on their own end. Something on the order of near 300 aircraft kills, only 14 of their own pilots lost. Tremendous capability in a very remote section. Well, those aircraft pilots and maintainers and mechanics painted their P-40s with the shark's teeth. It was a logo of the time. It was for morale and actually kind of harkened into some of deeper history back in the airplane world. But if you look at the P-40s and the Flying Tigers, they have the famous shark's teeth that you see up there. That American volunteer group over time was disbanded, absorbed into what became the 14th Air Force. The 14th Air Force over time changed its missions and eventually became part of Air Force Space Command. And it was the main operational arm for Air Force Space Command. And here in the 45th Space Wing, we reported to 14th Air Force. And so the Delta II, when it was created, and they started doing the GPS missions, they painted that shark's mouth and the shark's teeth on there in honor the lineage to the 14th Air Force all the way back to the American Volunteer Group. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that because it's a really cool factoid, and I love that they had the shark's teeth up here for history purposes and be able to talk to all that. Thank you very much, and we'll go on to the ribbon cutting.
3, 2, 1.